pretty good break off here. He'd love the 3 to hang. It didn't. That would have made things a bit easier to get started. He has a good shot on the 1. A little bit of fun in cueing here, especially if the type of shot you would like to hit it just a touch of right English, and I'm not sure he can get at the right side of the cue ball. So that always makes aiming and your comfort a little bit awkward, you might say. And always little stories in all these matches. You know, the top Euros, of course, fighting for that Mosconi Cup spot later on. Of course, 2023 is going to unfold with all these ranking events, but these two right here, right on the cusp of that Mosconi Cup, you can say in that 4th, 5th, 6th position, something like that.
Yeah, there'd be a few names you'd say would be pretty much nailed on to be in there, and then there's a pool of, well, could be as many as half a dozen players battling for maybe just a couple of spots on that side. That's going to be such a big story later on in the year as we get towards the business end of that. Desislava Bozhalova being called over. I'm not sure.
And I agree with that, yeah.
Oh, yes, to keep an eye and make sure that there's no contact with the 6, is it?
Yeah, that's right. It does not take much. Type of shot when you can't get to the right side of the ball, you tend to maybe overcut this as the miss. Oh, you hit it sweet.
Yeah, that's a good early sign, isn't it? Yeah, the referee's been spread among the tables here. So much action going on. Got to keep a couple of tables going at any given time. That will all change over the weekend when we get down to that last 16.
Yeah, and hard for the producers or whoever hands it's in to pick these matches. Of course, this is a premier match, but many premier matches going on here early on day 4.
Well, there have been so many times over the last few days we've seen, okay, this player's playing this player. Oh, that's bound to be on the main table. And then it isn't. And then, of course, it's because we look at it and realise there's such a wealth to choose from. We haven't seen many big-name exits and big upsets over the first few days when you consider how many matches there have been. But the payoff for that, of course, is that we now have so many big names left to play each other, which is going to make it a real treat between now and Sunday night.
Yeah, pretty smart, efficient shot there. Just getting a look at that 5 ball. He's going to have to work the cue ball. He's a little thin to ease it in, I think. He may go 3 rails around. This is a little funny. I mean, if he puts a little speed into this, does he get into the 7 ball at all? I don't know if he easily goes around it if he's trying to go 3 rails. And if he eases this, he's got to go past the 8 as well. Okay. Tell you what, Kazakis here early looks pretty smooth with the cueing. Good sign.
Well, he was one of the first into the building this morning to get some practice on the outside tables. Puts so much effort into it, doesn't he? Prepares so hard for every tournament, every match. And then when he's out there, he gives every last energy, every last drop of energy and commitment that he's got.
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't but 7, 8 years ago when I first met Alex and watched him put in a ton of work at that point, you know, and I'll be honest, you know, I knew he was going to be a good player and just from his work ethic, but I didn't ever know if he would get to the stage he's at now in his career. And when you start out having to be a worker to get through the ranks, right, it can really have some benefits because you're used to that work ethic, and he's not going to slow down with it.
Yeah, he's not the most fluent of players. He takes his time. He's quite methodical. And yet, at the same time, he can build rhythm and momentum quite well. Once he gets on a roll, he's one of those players who's capable of reeling off rack after rack. Really gets into such a cocoon of concentration. And he's taken the first rack in very short order there. A break and run. Nice way to start.
Yeah, the lag has been huge in these matches, at least on table 1. We can't watch them all, of course, but on table 1, it's been a big story, the lag. A lot of break and runs to open matches. And one thing for Kazakis that I see, and you know, and you could say this about a lot of players that lose matches, but sometimes there's just that one big shot that you don't expect, or a mistake from Kazakis that you don't expect, that maybe it definitely doesn't get his attitude. He's such a great guy. He stays very positive. It's just like maybe gets in his head a little bit, just like that very unexpected mistake.
Well, the reason Francisco Sanchez Ruiz is on the loser side of the draw is because he lost his opening match to Jason Theron of South Africa. He's now on the loser side as well, and he's out there at the moment. He's taken the opening rack against Naoki Oi. And a clash of former world champions, but a huge difference in age between them on table 9. Albin Ocean against Ralph Suke, and it's Suke who's won the opener there. Kazakis has done so here, and he breaks in rack 2.
Okay, a bit of 9-ball movement. A little thin on the cut. That's why he didn't get many balls up table. Lots of little clutter. And now a difficult rollout, probably rolls out to the opposite side rail. Maybe some type of thin piece on the 1. Even a kick shot. And you can tune in always on the YouTube channel, the Matchroom YouTube channel, for table number 2. Nicholas De Leon wins the first game against Ko Ping Chung. And really, I think the rollout, and the problem with the rollout on the kick is you're probably not going to get that back either. I'd look to tie something up here and make the rack a little more difficult. We got to see the layout again here in a moment. Just like any other sport or game, when you're behind or you feel like you're in trouble, you're trying to lengthen the game. Use your timeouts is what it'd be in other sports.
He may or may not pick up a trophy on Sunday evening. He's already got a medal today for his third place finish at the World Championship. Got to the semi-finals in Milton Keynes, was beaten by the eventual champion, Shane Van Boning.
Now he's rolled out to a piece of this, which is kind of interesting, really. I thought he might just roll out to the kick because Ruiz has got a choice now. Do I kick behind it? Do I play the slow speed? Can I trust the slow speed to just bump the 1 and stay behind the pink? Can I move the 1 somewhere along with the cue ball? Hard to think he would get this back with a few choices. You can kick behind it, kind of banking the 1 or kicking the 1 between the 2 and 3 with a high ball. Maybe a hair of right English, trying to get it to the bottom rail. And of course the guys are always going to be aggressive with the offensive shot and rarely passive, but they have to think aggressively with the safety as well. It's this winter break format, Michael. You want to try and get a game on your side so you can put some racks together. I like kicking behind it, I think.
Our first look at Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, who turned 30 right at the end of last year.
Boy, he's been a good player for a long time, just for 30 years old, and steadily improving, still looking for that huge win. He's got a pretty big win with the Derby City Classic 9-ball.
Yeah, well, that was right at the start of this year, and the first ever event to count towards the new 9-ball world rankings.
And this is the shot I was surprised that Kazakis offered, was the natural hit on the 1. Just because you're going to get a pretty soft safety, a kick shot you should manage. But anytime you're going rail first off of a snooker, Michael, you're taking a little the worst of it. Okay, a couple options. I think I feel pretty good about kicking to both long rails. So I think I got to kick across, trying to maybe pocket the 8. You can still get a lot of separation. A lot of good things can happen even if you don't make the 8. And he's still a huge favorite to make the hit on the 1. Keeping an eye on table 2 as well with the American player in the grease. Oh, I didn't think the 1 was possible.
Yeah, that didn't look to be on, did it? What's he got here, though, on the 2?
We'll see if he can get at all of it. There is a cross-corner bank. I don't know if he got right in the gap. I think he just has the bottom half of the 2, so he may be shaving the 2 towards the 3, running the cue ball, couple 2-3 rails behind the 6. Pretty easy shot for these guys because you have a lot of control with both the cue ball and the object ball. Oh, he's hit this with quite some speed. He's going to have a good cue ball. He's got a lovely one. Now, Ruiz should go to the top of the table, kicking 2 rails, top rail, and he's looking at the jump, and I ain't too in love with the jump. You really got to put a lot of pace on that to not only get over the 6, but it looks like carry the 9 ball as well. This is where, in my opinion, seeing that 2 rail kick up, again, the top rail, the left side rail coming at the 2, it offers a lot of good things, and it's a pretty easy hit for these guys. He's almost got to carry this all the way to the 2 ball with the 9 being in play. I really size up the kick shot here. Huge difference without the shot clock as well, Michael, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we thought when we were told there was not going to be a shot clock in these early rounds that we were going to see a lot of matches drag. Now, that hasn't actually been the case at all. It hasn't affected things in that respect. But as you say, with shots like this, it does make a big, big difference, because when players do want the time to think things out and assess all the options, they have been doing that. But I don't think it's made the matches drag to any great degree, so it's worked out pretty well all round. Will be shot clock on the weekend.
Yeah, I was wondering about that jump. He knew he had to put so much into it to carry the 9. I think it's just easy to lose accuracy, and I've seen it now for the first 2 shots for Ruiz on the shot clock. Took a lot of time with the rollout. That's another situation. The shot clock has a huge impact, because you know your opponent's coming behind you if you give it up, and you're always like, what's he thinking? What should I do? Instinct plays a big role when the shot clock gets involved.
So a frustrating start for Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. Hardly spent much time at the table. And even when he has got there, he's had little conundrums to figure out. Didn't manage to find a way out of that situation. And so Kazakis has a golden chance for 2-0.
Yeah, pretty perfect cue ball there. He'll come across for the 5 in the lower right. 6 does go up long, so no reason to get, you know, very missable on the 5 ball. You have options with the 8 over the side as well. Players look at future balls and how easy they lay. That really should make a big impact on the type of position they play on the ball that's in front of them.
Kazakis is also 30 years of age. Both of these players born in 1991.
A couple Polish players playing on the outside, which is, again, a lot of little stories. Not only trying to advance here in the UK Open, but little stories here early in only the month of May. And that's what we want, right, on the professional side of pool. You don't want to just, oh, we got to wait till October, November, to where we really have some drama going on.
Yeah, well, such a thriving calendar of big events now. Those rankings and the Mosconi narrative more and more a factor as the year goes on. So this rack looks to be pretty much done and dusted. So let's get into some scores from the other tables. And Riku Rompainen, the 14-year-old from Finland who has lit up this championship so far. He's 1-0 down against the World Masters finalist Loho Sum. Ralph Suke, 53 years of age, won the first 2 racks against Albin Ocean in that clash of former world champions, but Ocean has now closed to 2-1. Petri Mäkinen has a 2-0 lead over Rainer Lahr, and he's the man who dumped out Omar Al-Shaheen, the highest seeded player to go out of the championship so far. The old Polish clash you were referring to. Thomas Kaplan leading Viktor Zielinski 2-1. Naoyuki Oi is 2-1 up on Jason Theron. Tobias Bongers of Germany, 2-0 lead over Robbie Capito, who of course we saw on the main table, falling victim to Riku Rompainen yesterday. And Nicolas De Leon is just about to pot the easiest of 9 balls to go 2-0 up on Ko Ping Chung. So you're bang up to date on everything that's going on. Who's impressed you so far, JJ? Who stood out for you in terms of performers so far?
Well, it's like every tournament, I think, with SVB, but I was super impressed by the youngster, obviously, Riku. I like what Nicholas De Leon's doing. I know he's a big underdog still to go very, very deep, but I see him maturing every match, which I appreciate and I look forward to seeing more of. I expect Ralph to bounce back today. Had a rough match against Shane. Some things maybe we've never seen from Ralph, and just throw that one away. But gotta be impressed with Ruiz, right? He's faced elimination more than anyone as far as the top seeds, and he's continued on. This can get old quick though, and the one got jammed up. So again, a very difficult rollout.
Yeah, I mentioned Omar Al Shaheen, the highest seeded player to go out of the championship so far at number 12. So that means the top 11 seeds are all still in it. Dennis Graba was eliminated by Loho Sum. He's seeded 17. But they are the only two players of the top 25 seeds who've gone out. So much quality still on show today.
Yeah, I think there's a couple guys that, you know, are looking for a good result. Haven't had it in the last few tournaments, even though they quietly go about their business. Mario He, I think he's coming into form a bit. And Makinen, something about him, when he just stays quietly, you know, going about his business, a lot of people don't realize how solid a player Petri really is, and he puts a lot of confidence in with each and every match. So if he gets to that final 16, he might be kind of my real dark horse to maybe make a final or a semifinal. Rolling out to probably another kick shot here or something very slim as far as options. Can't roll out to the left side of the table like near the 5. The 2 balls playable off the 1, maybe the cross corner bank shot. And this is difficult when you have a couple balls grouped together like this. I mean, you can see the snooker could be very, very obvious and easy for your incoming player. I'm not sure where I roll out here. I think maybe the middle of the back rail to a kick shot, maybe. Again, he's going to leave him a piece of the 1 plus the option on the kick. Very similar position he had to roll out to in game number 1.
Again, though, FSR continues to be frustrated here, doesn't he? Hasn't had anything to go at yet in the match. Dying to get stuck in. We've got to be patient here.
Yeah, tricky little shot. It looks like to me he can hit off the 1 and the 8 with a high ball, banking the 1 across, and follow off the 8 down table between the 4 and the 6. It's kind of like, you know, anytime you're kissing the cue ball off a couple balls to run it somewhere, it's a little touchy and you got to kind of know the shot. But I wonder if Alex is really entertaining something like that. Looks pretty natural to me, actually. He's going for the kick, it looks like. Well, maybe not. I wonder if he plays that shot off the 1 and the 8, bringing the cue ball down to the bottom rail. Oh no, he's playing it soft. That was always going to be delicate. Yeah, just about that, excuse me, Michael, just about that same hit I was talking about, and then run the cue ball off the 8 as well, let the 1 come across the table. And interesting shot, but that's the thing about pool. You can practice all you want, but you're going to face something almost every match that you would never practice. It just has to go by instinct. This is all speed control. And a very good one at that. He's going to have to come with a nice kick here. I think he's got to kick to the short rail on the top of your screen whenever the, yeah, I think too risky and not much of a result kicking by the 6 here. The 8's really keeping you from getting safe much, so.
Alex Kazakis started his campaign with 3 successive wins over British players. And he beat them by a combined total of 27 racks to 4. 9-0 against Daniel Lim, 9-2 against Rich Saunders, and then 9-2 against Chris Melling, obviously by far the best known of those 3 victims. But it was the former world champion Torsten Homan who sent him over to the loser side. The German beating him 9-3 in round 4.
Yeah, I don't think I go with the light kick here. I think I go ahead and try and create a little bit of fortune, maybe. He almost was going to kick it in here in this corner, and he may get away with not giving up a... Well, it's close. I think maybe Ruiz can spin this in, but if he has to use spin, will that lead towards some position on the 2?
Albin Ocean was 2-0 down to Ralph Souquet. I can tell you he's now levelled at 2 each.
Albin having to survive a 1-loss side match late last night, or late yesterday, to get on into this position. Nice opener there for Ruiz. It was a little touchy. I saw it definitely in day 3 that the table definitely hung a few balls that would have went in day 1 and day 2. So breaking in a bit.
I mentioned he won the Derby City Classic at the start of the year. It was Joshua Filler that he beat in the final. And Sanchez Ruiz really announced himself by winning the European Nineball Championship title all the way back in 2016, also by beating Joshua Filler. He almost won the 8-ball at those championships as well. He's just beaten in a deciding rack in the final. And got to his first Euro Tour final the following year, beaten by Mario He. And really since then, he's been in or around, knocking on the door, becoming one of the top players. He seems to play well for a few months, have a few good results back-to-back in tournaments, and then doesn't quite build on it, and sort of back to square one.
Well, a lot of his opponents have a lot to say about building on things. It's a tough sport to win. He got a little off angle, and I was wondering how he'd play this. You got to recognize the 5 goes up long, so this is going to be okay, though. Going to fall a little bit straight, but should still be able to pinch the cue ball back for a little less cut on the 6.
We'll be seeing Francisco Sanchez Ruiz again just a few weeks' time. Not too far from here at Brentwood in the World Cup of Pool, when yet again he'll be partnered by David Alcady and the Spain team for the World Cup of Pool.
Yeah, one of the few countries in Europe that there's still not a whole lot of question mark on which 2 should be playing, right? But that's changing a little bit, I think, for Spain. I see a lot of youngsters and a lot more names.
For sure, we'll be seeing one of them, Camino, on the table soon. It's been one of the talking points of the week, how much of an impact the Spanish contingent have made. And Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has finally made an impact on the scorers here. Frustrating first couple of racks for him, but he's kept his patience there and ended up winning the rack to close to 2-1 down. Let's see what's happening on the other tables. On the other featured table, Ko Ping Chung is 2-1 down against Nicolas de Leon. Lo Ho Sum now leading 3-0 against the youngster Riku Rompainen. 2-2 in the match between Robbie Capito and Tobias Bongers. I told you that Albin Ocean has come from 2-0 down to level at 2 each with Ralph Souquet. Victor Zielinski now 3-2 up in the all-Polish clash with Thomas Kaplan. Petri Mäkinen, who you were bigging up a few minutes ago, JJ, and he's living up to that billing. 3-1 he leads Rainer Lahr of Estonia, and South Africa's Jason Theron is leading 3-2 against Nayuki Oi.
Yeah, well, not as many matches to play today as we obviously played in each of the first 3 days, but I think we'll see a little bit more matches taking their time. I wouldn't say dragging out. These players are too good for that. The ones that are left, you know, we're looking at a bunch of champion players overall, but you're going to see them taking their time. They know the opponents from here on out are going to be very worthy.
Well, these big field pool events are unusual in the sporting world because they actually get quieter as it goes on, because obviously we had all the action on all the tables over the first few days, but only 8 tables left in operation now, and it all just adds to the growing sense of tension as we get closer and closer to the business end.
Yeah, and this is something Ruiz, of course, it looks like to me overall, since early in the event he's slowed down his pace a little bit. But when he gets on the breaking end of things and the offensive side of the game, he can sure get that little pep in his step and put a lot of racks together quickly.
He almost went out in the opening day. I mentioned his defeat to Jason Theron. He then played Ashik Nathwani here on the main table and was 6-0 down. Somehow managed to battle back and win 9-8. He was playing dreadfully early on. Found some fluency. It's one of the most dramatic and exciting matches we've seen on the featured tables this week. And since then, he's won all his matches reasonably comfortably against David Zalman, Pia Filler, Maurice Skonechny, and then Dimitri Jungo. That was a really good win. That was pretty close early on, but Sanchez Ruiz pulled away to win 9-3 in the end.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just going to say that Kazakis had a break and run in the opening rack. Sanchez Ruiz looks like he's going to have his first of the match here. And it's all going to be tied up, Jeremy, at 2 each.
Yeah, and you got to hand it to Nathwani during that match. He played great, really got such an unfortunate roll when he made that shot and scratched up in the corner, just barely kissing that. I think it was the 6th ball maybe, but ever since then, Ruiz has turned it around, and I like that break a little bit better than the little bit lighter cut break myself. I think you're going to make a lot of balls. I think the work you're going to do is a little bit easier. And it seems like when the crucial time comes in these matches, and it always does between the champions, and something happens with the lighter cut break to me. The ball gets in the way, unfortunate kiss, maybe even a dry break.
Yeah, I'd echo what you said about Nathwani. You might look at it if you hadn't seen the match and see that he was 6-0 up and then lost. You would think that he had not been able to cope psychologically with the enormity of beating a big name player, but it wasn't like that at all. He didn't do a great deal wrong.
No, I just remember really kind of one unforced error coming down the stretch from him that he would certainly like to have back. I mean, we all miss position at times, have to play safe, you know, certain little things, but I was very impressed with him. Oh man, what a kiss.
Yeah, and the layout of the table sends Sanchez Ruiz back to his chair, knowing this is a great chance for Kazakis to regain the lead.
Yeah, and anytime you send the white ball near a pocket, you're just increasing those chances, and that's what happened there.
Just got the slightest contact from the two, didn't it? But that was enough to sweep it in.
Yeah, I don't really see much of a problem here, especially with the first 3 so easy to get on the 5 ball down here in a moment, coming off the 3 and the 8 near the 9. Kazakis should regain that lead and be breaking the balls in game number 6 here shortly. Just a little pinch, just maybe draw an inch or 2 here, not much.
Kazakis will also be in Brentwood for the World Cup of Pool. He'll be partnering Nikos Economopoulos for Greece.
Well, what a player. Of course, Nick trying to get back in form, I think, overall, but what a player and what power and offense that guy really possesses.
Well, Kazakis helped Greece reach the quarterfinals for the first time ever in the staging before last, the one that was in Leicester in 2019. Got to the last 8, but then beaten by the eventual winners, Austria.
Yeah, I know the teams were announced. Is it still Mario He and or Lechner?
No, Lechner.
Lechner moved
got
in
the
there,
call.
right? That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking was going to happen.
That was one of the big talking points. Ocean and he have obviously had so much success together, but Lechner, I think, has done enough to earn his place. They're a tight bunch, though, all three of those. You always see them spending time together at tournaments, so I'm sure Mario still wishes the other two very well.
Absolutely, and it's as much Mario's fault for Lechner getting in there and Albin's fault for, you know, pushing those other Austrians into the success they're having. And Lechner's a guy that's still beating on the door, trying to get into that big final or maybe even win it.
Yeah, had a lot of good results throughout 2021.
Interesting shot here. Just don't try to cheat it too much. You're going to try and come out with the cue ball. Looks fairly routine, but can't take anything for granted.
You talk about tiny margins, just such a light contact from the cue ball. Inflicted by the two, caused the scratch. Really, you have to think, but for that, in all likelihood, Sanchez Ruiz would have had all these to feast on. It's Kazakis, though, who runs out from that opportunity to lead once again at 3-2. Ko Ping Chung now 3-2 in front against Nicolas de Leon, so he's turned that round very well. Lo Ho Sum very much on top against Riku Rompainen, but we've seen what a great fighter the 14-year-old is, so let's not write him off just yet. So 4-0 to Lo Ho Sum. Victor Zielinski 4-2 up on Thomas Kaplan. Albin Ocean has won 3 in a row now, so he leads Ralph Suke 3-2. And there is that World Cup of Pool we were talking about, 14th to 19th of June at the Brentwood Centre in Essex. You can get tickets at matchroompool.com. An event that really showcases just how international this sport is. So many strong teams from all around the world. Just returning to the scores, 2-2 between Robbie Capito and Tobias Bongers. Naoki Oi 4-3 up on Jason Theron, and Petri Makinen now leading Reiner Lahr 3-2.
Oh, another cue ball. Watch it. Watch it. And that's what we talked about. You get it close, it's percentages you wouldn't believe just go through the roof, it seems like, on losing the white ball.
Yeah, well, it's a different pocket, but it's a very similar story. Just the slightest bit of contact, enough to cause the scratch. Kazakis throwing his arms up in the air, but he can't really complain about any misfortune because that's exactly how he ended up winning the previous rack.
Yeah, and that's on him. I mean, he understands that it didn't have to happen, just like many little things, but if you look at it, he didn't hit him how he wanted. I know that. So, of course, it's always amazing that it still shows up, but that World Cup, big news yesterday. Efren Reyes will be representing the Team Philippines with reigning U.S. Open 9-ball champion Carlo Beato. What a treat that's going to be. And I think, you know, to get the best out of Team Philippines in that regard, I think they picked the best player. Of course, he deservedly with the reigning U.S. Open title. But there's a lot of qualified Filipino players that I think would feel a little bit more pressure with their type of personalities and whatnot than Carlo will, playing with, you know, possibly the greatest ever. Even Dennis, to be honest with you, as incredible as he is, I think Carlo's mentality sets up well for that team to make some big noise here in a month's time.
It's about time the US started doing a bit better, isn't it? I think you've only won it once, haven't you?
Absolutely. I'm ready for it to come to the US. That's what I'm ready for.
Well, in the meantime, you've certainly got your best two players out. I think most people would agree. Shane Van Bonen and Skylar Woodward will be representing the Stars and Stripes. I thought last year's World Cup was fantastic in the sense that it really highlighted just how much strength and depth there is now and how many countries are capable of putting out a strong team with all the surprise results that we saw.
Yeah, especially when you talk about two, right? I mean, there's some countries that certainly could field many teams, but when you talk about two in the world of international pool, you probably put 50 countries together that could put a team together, maybe not get to the finals and win it, but funnier things have happened, and we certainly see some teams that are underdogs pull out some big wins.
Slovakia, obviously, last year was the prime example of that, getting all the way to the semis. I wouldn't be at all surprised picking up on that if we see the World Cup increase in years to come. 32 teams at the moment, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. I feel with Matchroom, the field is never quite big enough. They always want to get more players in, create more stories, which is great. So maybe 48 or even 64 in years to come.
And it's not novelties either, right? It's teams that are there to try and win. And it really pushes a lot of other teams. I see some South American teams I see get super, of course they appreciate being there, but super motivated after they put a win together. So
yeah, well, we saw that last year. Slovakia were literally the lowest seeded team in the thing, and they went and beat Austria. Extraordinary scenes. So that rack, a complete mirror image of the previous one. Scratch off the break and a run out from there. So now it's 3 each. That was what Alex Kazakis had to say about it all. Naoki Oi now leads Jason Thron 5-3. Petri Makinen also 2 racks clear in his match against Rainer Lahr. That one is 4-2. Robbie Capito has taken the upper hand against Tobias Bongers at 3-2. Victor Zielinski moving steadily towards his target against compatriot Thomas Kaplan. He leads 5-3. Loho Sum 5-0 up now against Riku Rompainen. But we did see the young Finn in a similar position yesterday against Skylar Woodward. And although he didn't win, he certainly got close to it. And it's 3-all between Nicolas de Leon and Ko Ping Chung. Back here, it's also 3 each. FSR to break us off in rack 7.
yeah, I'd like to see him just unload on him myself. He's going to like that. It seems like the cue ball, you don't quite get as, I don't know how to explain it. You just lose a little bit with the cue ball, and that's how I think how we get some of those scratches is the guys maybe backing off just a hair. And this happens also with the light cut break sometimes, the big cluster on the same side of the table you break from. We saw that with, I think it was Dennis Okulo a few times yesterday. Now the good thing for Ruiz is if he can draw into position here on the 2 and the side, he has a chance to open that cluster, that 3, 6, and 8. And maybe the 3's not even needed open. Can he cut the 3 in from the center of the table and maybe open the 6, 8 that way with the 4 over the opposite side, kinda? So interesting little rack. Okay, it looks like he's done pretty well here, and no matter if he wants to come to the center for a cuttable 3 ball or try and open the balls. Now he's looking to open them, so he's got choices here, Michael, and this is an interesting one. They want to stay aggressive, but he could come out and play a 3-rail safety off the 3, just banging it around table. Yeah, okay, he escaped.
Talked about how sometimes he doesn't quite manage the consistency of the top players. Isn't quite able to string a number of good tournaments together, but to be fair, he did in 2021. Showed very well in the very biggest events. Got to the quarterfinals of the World Championship and was only narrowly beaten by Oliver Szolnocki. Last 16 then of the US Open went down to Naoki Oi. He won a couple of Euro Tour events as well in Slovenia. Beat Alex Kazakis actually in the final of that one. And then at the Antalya Open, went pretty close actually to a 3rd straight Euro Tour win at the Treviso Open in November. Got within a rack of getting to the final before being seen off by Viktor Zielinski, who went on to win the title.
Yeah, this has gotten funny. He can't quite reach. He's got to kind of play a bit of a masse shot, try and hold the ball. Okay, nice shot.
Yeah, and again, the absence of the shot clock helped him there. He needed the time to figure out exactly how he was going to play that. One of those that you get it even slightly wrong, you're going to miss.
Yeah, he had to use right spin to try and, he actually caught a foreign point on the 3 to really actually make it naturally, but he used English to try and throw it in. So he's good here. Kind of straight on the 4, though. Got to recognize the 7's over the corner, the 8's easy, so doesn't have to get perfect on the 6 to really get out in this rack. So I'd keep it simple here. I wouldn't try to force things. Just any kind of cut shot on the 6 is okay. One thing for Ruiz, I think, I think it was the 2019 US Open, also the first one that Matchroom took over. He got to the final 16 there, I believe, as well. So he gets it going in these winter break formats, and I think that's the type of format that he's going to get his first big win in.
I think we saw that, didn't we, when he was turning it round against Nathwani. He managed to get a good run going, put a few racks together very swiftly.
Again, going into these side pockets, the Diamond's known for the tough side pockets. I try to keep it as simple as I can, I tell you. If the 7's somewhere else, 7's pinned on the back rail, you have to really get something decent on the 6 to be able to move the cue ball. But with the 7 over the pocket up in the corner, I wouldn't go, too far as stretching it on this 4 ball. Yeah, that's fine there. I'm surprised it took him that much time to make this decision, to be honest with you. Sometimes you have to realize how good you are, almost remind yourself how good you are. That'll help you keep things simple. A little early body movement. Ruiz will move on the shot occasionally. They just cheat the pocket here, drawing the ball 2 rails across. Yeah, I like that.
Francisco Sanchez Ruiz hardly got a look in early on. He was 2-0 down. But he's now won 4 of the last 5 racks. And with that, he leads for the first time in the match at 4-3.
And it's been even though, 4-3 and it kind of feels like a sluggish pace, but it's actually been a very high quality match. Two kiss-ins on the break. A couple safeties, of course. There weren't opening shots, sometimes some rollouts, but really execution-wise, both guys in form.
Yeah, and some of the safety we've seen has been of a very high quality in itself. Ko Ping Chung leading 4-3 now against Nicolas de Leon. Real tussle going on there on the other featured table. Lo Ho Sum still leading Riku Rompainen 5-0. Viktor Zielinski now 6-3 in front against Thomas Kaplan. Robbie Capito 4-2 up on Tobias Bongers. Naoki Oi just a couple of racks away from the next round. He leads Jason Theron of South Africa 7-3. Petri Mäkinen is just 1 rack ahead against Rainer Lahr of Estonia. It's 4-3 to the Finn there. And Ralph Souquet not going away against Alban Ocean. From 2-0 up, he went 3-2 down. But he's levelled again now at 3 apiece.
Yeah, and what we saw yesterday at the end of our coverage from Ralph, we can kind of just discard that. That's not like the rarest of exceptions. We'll see a couple of the mistakes he made, and he'll process it overnight. That's why he's so great, and he'll come back stronger today. Oh my! Now that would have been a terrible kiss that wouldn't have been really on Ruiz, but now big reward. Great shot on the one. Okay, interesting little layout here as well. Even though he's got a great starter, he's got to make a decision to get a decent look at the 2 to get to the 3. 3's not far from the pocket though, so the problem is he can't really come out with the cue ball with the 4 and 5 being there, and he doesn't want to shoot the 2 elevated, so a little bit of a touchy first shot just to get himself set up for the rest of the rack. Of course, pocketing the 1 shouldn't be a problem, but again, doesn't want to cue over the 3, but can't move that much to the right because of the pink 4. And there's other issues. I mean, if he gets straight on the 2 in a funny manner, he's going to have a lot of cut on the 3, which isn't the worst of things, but maybe not ideal. And again, I think the shot clock showing up, or the lack of shot clock showing up here on this opening shot, even though it's a cupcake as far as pocketing the 1. Okay. I think he did about as well as he could. He's not snookered. He's not cueing over the 3, and he has a touch of an angle. I wouldn't try to do a whole lot here. I'm just trying to stun draw this out to where I get not as thin on the 3. And just have to run the cue ball off the 3 to the 4 is all. Yeah, smart shot there, keeping it simple.
We saw him just a couple of weeks ago at the World Pool Masters, practically in his own backyard. And a couple of really good wins, beat Mika Immonen, then Albin Ocean. Eventually went out in the quarterfinals against Mieszko Fortunski, who in turn was beaten by Lo Ho Sum in the semis. He's also recently been to the quarterfinals of a Euro Tour event, and that's following that successful stint in the States at the start of the year.
Yeah, I was talking to Jason after he got done with play yesterday, and of course
Jason Shaw, that is.
Yeah, Jason Shaw, and he lost to Fortunski, and he told me it was a lot just like the Whirlpool Masters. He had one unfortunate kick on an 8-ball, missed the 9, and never really shot again.
Yeah, Fortunski rather putting Shaw out early in Gibraltar, and as you say, coming here and following up on that.
Okay, nice work here in rack number 8, and trying to extend to his largest lead here in this match. Seems like we haven't seen Kazakis in a while.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is what we were saying about Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. He's very capable of doing this, just taking control of the table and fluently holding on to it for rack after rack. It's going to be another break and run now. So he was 2 behind. He's now 2 in front. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, more than halfway to victory. He leads Alex Kazakis by 5 racks to 3 in the UK Open. Lo Ho Sum has now stretched it out to 6-0 against Riku Rompainen. Ko Ping Chung 5-3 in front against Nicolas de Leon. That's been really close all the way, but a little bit of daylight starting to emerge there. Viktor Zielinski 6-4 in front against Thomas Kaplan in the all-Polish clash. Robbie Capito leading 5-2 against Tobias Bongers. Petri Mäkinen 5-3 in front over Rainer Lahr. And Naoki Oi 7-4, he leads Jason Theron. Still 3-3 between Albin Ocean and Ralph Souquet. Souquet is at the table. I think he's shooting at the 6 from what I can see. Don't know if your eyesight's any better than mine, Jeremy, but we will keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, can't quite tell. I'll tell you a couple things that bode well for some players. Naoki Oi may be going to that 1-loss side early, somewhat early. I think the second round maybe, but I think maybe got him a little more relaxed. It seemed to me he was played a little bit more stressed in 2022 than he did in 2021. But the 1-loss side, I thought, did him wonders in 2021 as well. I don't know if anyone won more matches in big events than him. Of course, others went further, but we know on the one-loss side you have to win almost twice as many matches, right?
Yeah, and sometimes players respond well to the immediacy of it all. The knowledge that if they lose, they're out sometimes brings out the best in them. So maybe he falls into that category.
Yeah, and he, like I said, he really did some damage on that one-loss side in 2021. Getting to the single elimination parts of the tournaments and also doing very well there. But another one that's unfortunate for Riku is he's facing a man in Loho Sum that is still trying to make his way. Even some big results of late. He's a youngster as well. I mean, maybe not as young as Riku, but he's going to really grind out those racks and probably not go for shots that maybe some other players would go for and really let the youngster get started.
And just as you say that, Loho Sum has gone 7-0 up now against Riku Rompainen.
Yeah, and he's going to play smart as well against the youngster. I mean, Riku, is much as it's a great story, these players are recognizing he can win if you give him some chances. So probably going to play pretty snug at times with the safeties and the decisions. And that's to his own credit, by the way, Riku. That's a good thing. That's a compliment. The players showing him that respect.
Yeah, he's looked just unfazed by everything that's gone on, the enormity of the situation, the fact he's rubbing shoulders with guys who are so much older than him, playing in unfamiliar surroundings, and even being well behind in matches, nothing seems to throw him. The interesting thing, of course, will be to see whether he can manage to maintain that mindset when he's had a few scars along the way. But whatever happens over these next few days, he will be one of the names we remember most from this week. And it's a name I suspect we're going to be hearing a lot of over many, many years to come.
Yeah, I don't think he'll hold on to any negative here this week, that's for sure. A youngster like that, and that's how great the other pool players are as well. They let it go pretty quickly, which we know it's a brutal game at times. So just like we talked about, you can travel across the world and really not get many opportunities. Doesn't happen very often, but it happens to everyone at some time or another.
Yeah, I think if you don't have that mentality, you're not going to become a top player in the first place. So
Yeah.
Absolutely, it makes those guys stand out. It's amazing to think, you look at someone like Shane Van Boning. I mean, he was winning the US Open before Rompainen was even born.
Right.
And he puts it in perspective, and he's still here as a top player and world champion, of course. Back here, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has really got some momentum going. He's looking to make it 4 racks in a row here, including 3 break and runs.
This felt a little funny just because of the 8. He doesn't want to get super thin on the 7, so he's got to pay attention coming across. Oh, he caught that a little thick, which may have been actually kind of intended. But yeah, the players have to, it's funny in pool, you have to leave the bad behind, but you also have to leave the good behind. I mean, how often we see an extremely impressive shot and then something easy they fumble with there shortly after. But I do like to see some emotion in the players. That, you know, a robot to me is somebody that I think you rarely see be one of the top guys, right? How often in sports do you see that guy that's just kind of flatlined at all times really be the one to beat?
Well, Alex Kazakis shows plenty of emotion at times, but we're not seeing that from him at the moment because we're not seeing him at all. He's been sitting down for several racks now, and that scratch that he had early in rack 6 has proved very, very costly indeed, because since then it's been one-way traffic. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz becomes the first player to lead by 3 in this match. It's now 6-3. Now Ralph Souquet has won that epic 7th rack on table 9, so he leads again against the 2-time world champion Albin Ocean. Souquet, 53 years of age and leading 4-3. I told you about Loho Sum leading Riku Rompainen 7-0, and Ko Ping Chung being 5-3 up now against Nicolas de Leon. Robbie Capito pulling away against Tobias Bongers. That one is 5-2. And it's been a real close tussle between the two poles on table 5, Thomas Kaplan and Victor Zielinski. It's continuing that way. It's now 6-all. Petri Mäkinen leading Rainer Lahr 5-3. And could Naoki Oi be the first winner of the morning? He's on the hill against Jason Theron at 8-4.
Oh, another great break off. Little mild kiss on the cue ball. The one's tracking near the cue ball. Is he going to get a pocket? I don't see a pocket initially. Tell you what, not a combination you see very often, but if this is lined up decent, I wouldn't doubt if the Spaniard goes for the 1-3 combo in the lower right corner.
Over on the other featured table, you can watch on Matchroom Pool YouTube channel, Ko Ping Chung has also gone 3 clear against Nicolas De Leon. 6-3 in that one now.
Yeah, Nick had a couple little chances there at 3-2 and 3-3 that he kind of let slip away, and now Ko Ping Chung doing a lot of what he does, just like his brother. I'll tell you what, I'd have to look at this combination right here. I mean, you have to hit it well, of course, but in this winter break format, I think he's supposed to try and keep him sat in the chair here.
It's a little deceptive, that picture, that 3, yeah, you see it a bit better from there. It's a little further away from the pocket than it looked, but absolutely, surely he goes for this.
Yeah, confident stroke, don't roll it too much. He kind of rolled it kind of easy, but hit dead center.
Oozing confidence now. Really, it's turning into a very accomplished performance. Just didn't get a look in early on, but since he started getting chances, he's been taking them very efficiently.
Yeah, Kazakis only has really that kiss off the break shot where he scratched. That was his only mistake that I can recall. Made a beautiful couple kick shots. Had to roll out a couple times. That's really been the difference in the match, where Ruiz has gotten shots after the break here and performed behind him. This is our last day of no shot clock, and we will change to the triangle, that being the wooden rack for the final 16.
Yeah, we'll be going up to race to 11 as well, and that'll increase further for the final. And Sunday evening will be race to 13. As we've said, of course, the intention and the expectation is that this will be a mainstay of the calendar for many years to come, and there can only ever be one inaugural champion, no matter what happens in the future. So if you're the first name on that trophy, that's a bit of history.
Absolutely, and these players are, well, you know, the hardware is what they want. You know, the prize money's going up in our sport, which is fabulous, and it should. And I think it'll continue to do so, but these titles and more of them, that's really what they're looking for. And Ruiz is starting to get that little hop in his step, little pep. Slowed down a little bit here by a hair off angle, but should be just fine. And Ko Ping Chung with a big miss on the other table, and maybe Nicolas De Leon can get something started. Okay, should track 3 rails here with a little high touch of right English. Come just right of the racking area and then back up for what should be a pretty straight shot on the 9.
Well, you can't play any better than this. This has been wonderful stuff from Sanchez Ruiz. And a match that looked like it might be heading for a very, very tight finish may still happen, but it's not looking likely at the moment. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz really pulling away. He only needs 2 more racks. He leads Alex Kazakis 7-3. So Ko Ping Chung on the other featured table. Looks like he's about to go 7-3 up on Nicolas De Leon. Just 4 more balls required for that. Loho Sum still leading Riku Rompainen 7-0. Alban Ocean has drawn level again against Ralph Souquet. It's 4-all there. Also level pegging, but a bit further advanced on table 5. 6 each between Thomas Kaplan and Victor Zielinski. Robbie Capito in a comfortable lead over Tobias Bongers at 7-2. Petri Mäkinen just one in front now against Rainer Lahr at 5-4. And as I was saying, Naoyuki Oi on the hill, he leads Jason Theron 8-4.
Yeah, and I'd like to see the South African, if they have a federation or I'm not exactly sure what goes on as far as organized professional pool in that part of the world, but years ago when they were around the World Pool Championships, they didn't win the events, but they made some noise with some big wins and some nice finishes. I'd like to see that area continue on and see what they can produce.
Big Q sports tradition in South Africa, of course, used to be one of the leading snooker countries, and they had Silvino Francisco at the forefront of that, the former British Open snooker champion. That was the first snooker tournament ever to have a £50,000 first prize back in the 1980s, but they've completely disappeared really off that scene. So maybe pool is where it's at now.
Oh, this doesn't look very good for Kazakis. Looks great and actually looking better and better for Ruiz, but it's amazing the mentality you must have in professional pool these days. It's not all the time, but we do play events to where you have to know you're going to get sat down for 4, 5, 6 racks sometimes, and you have to be able to get up and perform if you get the chance. I'm not saying that didn't happen years ago, but I think with the equipment, a little bit the template definitely happens more often in today's game. And I think champions years ago are the same kind of champions as today. There's just way more of them.
We have our first winner of the day. Naoyuki Oi has closed it out. The man from Japan has beaten Jason Theron of South Africa by 9 racks to 4.
Okay. Don't think he settles for the side here. I think he pulls this underneath the 7 and plays the 7 in the same pocket as the 5. A little bump, but it was really hard for much to go wrong, even with a little friendly bump on the 7. In fact, many might have thought that was the actual correct shot. And I'll tell you, Michael, discussed, I think that scratch on the break was unfortunate, but a little bit on Kazakis, but he's taken really the ultimate punishment here.
Oh yeah, we've not seen him since.
But we're seeing a lot of what most Ruiz fans like to see. Definitely a lot of rhythm and a lot of good pool.
Well, for a man who was struggling so much with his game right at the start of this tournament, he's really motoring now. That's 5 breaking runs in a row. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz on the hill at 8-3. So I told you Naoyuki Oi is through. FSR may be the second winner of the day, or will he be beaten to it by Loho Sum? Because he went 8-0 up on Riku Rompainen. However, the young Finn has just managed to avert the whitewash. Loho Sum, though, still on the hill. Ko Ping Chung pulling away now against Nicolas De Leon. 7-3 he leads. They're level again at 7-all between Thomas Kaplan and Victor Zielinski. Robbie Capito 7-2 lead over Tobias Bongers. And Petri Mäkinen 5-4 in front against Rainer Lahr. 4-all in that big clash of former world champions between Alban Ocean and Ralph Souquet. And it looks like Ko is about to go 8-3, Jeremy. I know you're keeping a very close eye on that one.
Yeah, and he was a pretty decent favorite in that match. Looks like Alban's, is going to get his first lead in that match against Ralph, maybe? I don't know if he led early. I don't recall.
I think he was 3-2 in front.
He was in front, okay.
Yeah, having been 2-0 down.
Yeah, I think Ralph got out to a 2-0 lead, and I'll tell you, another good shot on the 1, even though much more difficult situation on the 1, and position looks to be a little tougher as well. I don't think the 3 passes the 6. Certainly won't back off unless the 3 is just not playable, because he doesn't have a whole lot of options as far as cue ball movement off the 1.
Robbie Capito also in the mix to be the second winner of the day. He's on the hill now against Tobias Bongers at 8-2. Can confirm what you were saying, JJ. Alban Ocean now 5-4 in front against Ralph Souquet.
Yeah, the this, I think, that had to be 5 racks in a row? 5 breaking runs in a row for Ruiz, or 4?
It's 5.
5, yeah.
And it's actually 6 rack wins in total, because of course he'd also won the previous rack after Kazakis had scratched. Early on, it had all the feel of a match, didn't it? That was going to be 9-7, 9-8, but may yet be. Hardly looking likely. But maybe just a glimmer of hope for Kazakis here.
Yeah, missable ball because he's got to work the cue ball, unless he wants to lay up one rail for the 3-6 combo, which isn't terrible. I mean, if you felt like you could get the cue ball into position, it's not a tough combination overall, as long as you're not having to cut the 3 extremely back onto the 6. If you could get the line of the cue ball kind of where the 1's at now, that'd be a nice one to shoot the combo. But the difference in this match really has been, of course, that scratch. They've each had one of those, but shots after the break, that was the big one. Kazakis with 2 breakoffs and had to roll out both times. Got it down. The 3-9 is the only possibility there. Now, he got a cut in the side to where he can run the cue ball 2 cushions in between the 6-9 and then back between the 5-9 up table for the pink 4. I think he got just about as good as he could here, Michael. I mean, he doesn't have to really elevate the cue. I don't think it's a scratch if he levels out and plays the 3 in the right side. This could be curtains if he gets this one down.
And it could be curtains on the other table as well, because Ko Ping Chung has a really nice layout and a chance to finish off against Nicolas De Leon at 9-3.
Okay, he decided to play it with a bit more of keel, and that had a lot of emphasis to make it about making the 3 and taking a little tougher shot on the 4. And when players are not only playing well, but also in that workers mentality, they're tough to beat.
Well, it's just a stubborn refusal to leave the table.
He's really got one more shot. I mean, he's just got to. Looks like he's going to put outside here instead of inside softly, so he's got to float this in. A lot of spin. Yeah, and the Spaniard's getting on with it. This is a good sign for him in day 4.
Well, if you'd seen him in the early stages of his match against Ashik Nathwani on this table on Tuesday afternoon, he would have said, right, well, there's a player who has no chance of winning this UK Open if he keeps playing like that. But you said it, Jeremy, sometimes going over to the loser's side can be a springboard for you. He's had so many matches over the last few days. He's steadily got better and better.
Well, the thing about it is, it's a little bit of a landmine, you know. You have to dodge that, hey, I'm not going to face some other top players. But you go into 2 or 3 matches in a row where you're a huge favorite. So you can get a little more comfortable with the match. You can get a little more comfortable with yourself. And I think what got the best of Ruiz against Ashik was some mental choices more than physical choices. I don't know if you remember that match, but some real odd decisions.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he's a live contender for the title now. Still got some matches to get through.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you could see Kazakis, he looks like he's
wow.
He's in the rain waiting on a taxi, I think, or
yeah.
something.
Well, it is raining outside today. That's why you and I both got taxis in. Well, it is a case of taxi for Kazakis, and you think back to that scratch that he had from the break at the start.